What's going on, guys? This is Dave, and this is the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We're presented to you by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET has what you need to win. Sign up today, bet $100 and get a $100 free bet at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. Claim your free bet today. Brad, I don't know if you got your bingo card, but I got mine. And in the middle, I have a Josh Allen square, basically a free square in the middle. It's beautiful. We're also brought to you by the SGPN Thanksgiving Free Roll. Everyone who hits a football bingo in our contest will win $100 cash and a $100 gift card to the SGPN store exclusively on the SGPN app. Make sure you download it. Tomorrow is the big day. All right, so let's kick it off with a little bit of news, and then we're going to get into our RB rankings. Dynasty RB rankings are always difficult because they are always so fluid, and hopefully this podcast is before tomorrow's games because a whole lot of change could happen just overnight because running backs are so crazy. But happy Thanksgiving Eve, one of the drunkest nights of the entire year. So
happy birthday to my dad.
Hey, happy birthday, Brad's dad.
Yeah.
Everybody put hashtag Brad's dad or happy birthday Brad's dad in the comments. And, again, it's one of the drunkest holidays of the year. I think it is the drunkest holiday of the year. And therefore, be safe. Uber, Lyft, friends, sleep on a couch. Don't drink and drive. It can change your life in a bad way. And so just plugging Thanksgiving and giving back. Today, I got to do a community for those who don't know, that I work for a mental health center, and so we work with people with mental health and mental illness, substance use, and so we did a community Thanksgiving with a few of our community partners. We started about 500 families for dinner this evening. It was great time, and if you can give back financially, that's great. If you can't, or you just your things are tight, give back with your time and just going to a soup kitchen or going somewhere to spend some time with people, do some things. It's you don't realize how much of an impact you have on them by doing those things. So that's that. Let's get into the football. Huge news: the Los Angeles Rams are done for the year. They have A'Shawn Robinson is going for surgery. Matthew Stafford is done for the year. I have to imagine Cooper Kupp is done for the year. Darrell Henderson is cut. He's now a Jacksonville Jaguar. So this just crushes any of your Rams' value, Allen Robinson's value, Tyler Higbee's value. I mean, Cam Akers didn't really have any value, so his is even worse. I mean, it's just a bad situation. And then we just saw quarterback changes all over the place. I don't know if you had this on your bingo card for 2022 fantasy football. Did you have Kyle Allen? Did you have Mike White starting the same week? On top of it, we got Sam Darnold, who is, apparently like the QB3 for Carolina, who doesn't have a single quarterback. And you have now Lamar Jackson has a hip injury. We know that, Rodgers and Allen are dealing with some stuff. I mean, it's just I'm getting more and more frustrated in my Superflex leagues because it's really hard to start two quarterbacks out there.
Yep. Yeah, it's tough. I was let's see, we played this past week, and I lost Matthew Stafford, and that hurts. Which I wasn't really a contender in that team anyway, in that league, but I was still looking to make that first that I sold to try to be a contender as bad as humanly possible, and it looks like it's going to get better for him. Son of a bitch, it's going to be a rough year in that league.
I traded players midweek, so I was gonna beat you, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna trade players so Hitman can lose. That's how Matt sold me. Hey, I need James Conner so I can go beat Hitman. I'm like, all right, just send me an offer.
Oh.
So let's get into the QB rankings, and before we do that, let's check back in with the sponsors. The first sponsor, of course, is Win. Ready to win and boost your odds. WinBet is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. We're bringing the excitement of Win Las Vegas to online sports betting and casino play. Exclusive rewards are right at your fingertips with Win Rewards at WinBet. Be on the lookout for WinBet Win Hour each Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. During WinBet Win Hour, marquee games of the week will have the better odds on WinBet, giving you a larger payout opportunity. Great promos, odds, and payouts are happening right now at WinBet. From boosted same game parlays to live in-game odds on every major sport, WinBet has exactly what you need to win. Ready to play? Sign up today to receive a special offer. If you bet $100, you're going to win $100. There's so much to choose from. All you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WinBet. That's so they know we sent you. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions at winbet.com. Must be 21 or older and play in a state where playthrough WinBet is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-522-4700. So, Brad, let's get into these rankings. Let's talk about our number one quarterback, and running back here. And so we're 1 for 1. Jonathan Taylor. He's the number one guy on both of our boards. He's also the ECR for Fantasy Pros. Anything much to say about JT on why he holds the spot?
Nope, definitely not. I think it'll be interesting to see some of your league mates who are JT owners who've had to deal with him this year, possibly fading him. So if you go get him on a little bit of a dip, I might look at trying to do that in certain situations, because I do think there are some people who are kind of down on him a little bit this season.
Yeah, and his price is reasonable now considering, and the joke when I did my Dynasty RB rankings is Bijan Robinson already the RB1, and it's a joke, but it's kind of not. I mean, running backs are you're looking for running backs that are in this small little window that have proven production, are healthy, and are young. And it's very hard to find people that check all three of the boxes. Yep. And we're going to talk about that a lot down the list, but let's not spend too much time on Taylor, because we both agree that he's the one. And our number 2 is consensus as well, and that is Saquon Barkley. And it is great to see Saquon back and healthy. I mean, everybody is, Giants fans, fantasy community, dynasty community. I mean, he's a good dude. He's gone through it, had some tough times, took a lot of crap. And I told you he was going to be the comeback player of the year. Maybe. We'll see. I don't think he's the favorite, but it's him, Geno, and a couple other guys. But he's having a great year. And last week wasn't the best week for him. Tomorrow it's going to be rough sledding with his entire offensive line basically out due to illness. But Saquon's back, and he's the number 2 dynasty running back. Anything that would have, what are your thoughts here on Saquon? What solidifies him as the number 2 spot?
Yeah, you talked about him being the comeback player of the year. I talked about him returning to form because of Brian DeBall. Prior to the season, we talked a lot about, with him coming in as the new head coach, this guy has 6 of 8 seasons as an offensive coordinator with a top 10 rushing offense. And now he gets the best running back that he's ever had. And people don't think he's going to have a top 10 season. They just meshed together for me. It was easy to see the writing on the wall, especially when you saw the conditioning coupled with the new coaching staff. It just made sense. And there's no way, I don't think there's anybody that you could even argue is number 2 above Saquon Barkley right now.
Yeah. So let's go to our number 3, and our number 3 consensus was a tie. And so it was Kenneth Walker tied with Travis Etienne, and we just flip-flopped them. And so I'll let you start. Why is Travis Etienne your number 3?
It's a young guy in an up-and-coming offense with Doug Peterson, who likes to utilize the running back. So it's just he's tied to his college quarterback. We saw how comfortable that team got with him coming back from that Liz Frank injury, coming in, giving him 4 or 5 games to kind of get back into the rhythm of things. Because think about it, this is his rookie season. He didn't play a snap last year. And now here we come in and they move on from James Robinson, and he's the guy. And I see a world where this guy is an Alvin Kamara type of player, right? He's got a similar size, a similar skill set. He's not as twitchy, I don't think, obviously, as Alvin Kamara, but I see that type of production. Good rushing yardage, good attempts on the ground, but also getting a healthy amount of targets in the long term in that offense. I think when Calvin Ridley comes in, it's going to even help that offense even more, where there's more scoring opportunities than there is right now. So Travis Etienne, to me, is an absolute smash buy. He was a buy for me early in the season, and right now he's still a buy because I've got him a little bit higher than what ADP is right now.
Yeah, and my counterpoints would be, Doug Peterson hasn't always used running backs like that. This is the first year he's going to have a running back eclipse that 1,000-yard mark if Travis Etienne keeps going what he's doing. And if he is Alvin Kamara or Aaron Jones type of player, those guys have never gotten the type of volume that he's seen the last couple of weeks. Those guys are more hyper-efficient guys that are getting 15 to 16 touches a game, and they have another player with them, which isn't a bad thing. They've been great for fantasy, and it keeps them healthier. Everybody wants their running back to get 100% of the touches, 100% of the snaps, and all this stuff until they get hurt. And so at the end of the day, someone getting 30 touches a game is a recipe for disaster, and most teams know that. I had Greg Kellogg, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, on the show, and he talked about the curse of the curse of 370 or 360. And at the end of the day, going back decades, he told me, don't draft Najee Harris, don't draft Jonathan Taylor. They had so much work on them that they're not going to have good years this year because of it. And he was 100% right. And he could have said the same thing over and over, just rinse, wash, and repeat. Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, even the best running backs, just they have so many touches. Derrick Henry, they're gonna break down. Remember DeMarco Murray was cool for like a second. It's the way it goes. So I have Kenneth Walker. He's a little bit younger than ETN, and he's a little bit bigger. And so that's where I'm going with it. I do like, Seattle's always had good running backs, and that system with Pete Carroll, that you trust it. And we've seen top 5 running backs in that system. Chris Carson couldn't really hold up. That was a problem. What I loved to see last week was when he failed a little bit in the running game, he got used in the passing game. And it showed his versatility. Not last week, he was on bye, the week before. It showed his versatility, getting eight targets. That was the whole talk about him, was that he's not going to he's going to be the next, at the best, he's going to be a Nick Chubb type of player, which I'm like, well, that's pretty freaking good. I'll take that. But he's saying, they're saying he's not going to catch the ball at all. And so he shows the ability to be a 3-down back. And now that, Penny's out of the picture, he just took it over, and he's got big playability and everything you're looking for. And ETN, I like ETN a lot. There's a reason why I have him at 4. He's risen up the ranks, and he deserves a lot of credit. And, people that drafted him earlier in the season were very disappointed the first 3 weeks of the year. And then the team really started to, shift things. And, I'm really happy to have him on my Scott Fishbowl team. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and Kevin Walker, the other thing to think about is that volatility with the offense, right? I know you're a big-time lover of Geno Smith and think he's going to get that contract there, but there is a world where they draft a quarterback, and now you've got some volatility with the offense, and what's it look like, and maybe not that consistency that you hope for with these top 5 dynasty running backs, but the volume is there, and like you said, you see now, hey, he's not getting it on the ground. We still need to get him, one of our best playmakers, the ball. Let's get it to him out in space as a receiver and see what he can do with it, and he produced with it.
So the next one's interesting. These are our 5 and 6. They're both averaged out at 6 on ours, and we're in line with consensus ADP so far, except for they have Eckler at 4, and we have ETN much higher. The ADP is Taylor, Walker, Barkley, Eckler, Hall, McCaffrey, and we have it Taylor, Barkley, Then Walker and ETN are tied, and then Hall and McCaffrey are tied. So I'll let you go first. Why do you have a McCaffrey at 5 ahead of Breece Hall?
It's the offense. It's the offense there. The one thing that can, and you've seen what he's doing in San Francisco. We don't have to talk about how he's producing and all that. The one thing that is making me a little skeptical and possibly going to have me drop him the more I think through this is his contract is very odd. So his contract has 0 dead cap the next 3 years. So in any given season, the San Francisco 49ers can move on from him and save almost $13 million. So it's very odd the way that it is structured now that he's in San Francisco with all of that dead cap staying with the Carolina Panthers and San Francisco not dealing with that. But let me tell you, the way that they've been utilizing him now that also Elijah Mitchell is back, relieving some of that rushing workload off of McCaffrey, I think he's there for the long term, which is why I have him at 5 right now. I've got him a little bit higher than ADP. I think you have him at 7. I think 5 and 7 is where we have these guys flip-flopped a little bit. And I just think you see he's kind of the lifeblood of that offense right now. Everything is kind of running through him. We've talked about how San Francisco uses the run to set up Debo, to set up Brandon Ayuk, to set up George Kittle, and it's working pretty damn well right now.
Yeah, and, we do our rankings a little differently. I do mine based on the now. Mine is based on what's the trade value I can get now, and I know these are two players that are kind of the opposite. You have an older player in McCaffrey, 26-year-old running back, which is it's older for running backs, but he's gets you points now, and he's a league winner right now. Breece Hall is more on the opposite side of things, and so you gotta parse that out. Where, I told you this week, adios. I traded Saquon Barkley, Breece Hall, and Cooper Kupp for Saquon Barkley and Chris Godwin, and so I have Barkley higher, obviously. But Breece Hall is still someone that, you're still going to sell him for quite a bit. And with McCaffrey's age, that's the only reason that I have them different. I think they're both great players, but you're going to get McCaffrey at the most 2 or 3 years and Breece Hall 5 or 6 years. And so that's where I'm going with it. The next player on the board is interesting. DeAndre Swift. And so DeAndre Swift is interesting, and he's someone that I really kind of felt like lowering him on the board, but I kept him where he's at. And you got him a little higher than I do. So why so high on Swift?
Yeah, and this is me dropping him, right? Coming into the season, he was my RB2 in Dynasty Rankings. I thought this was a season they were finally going to start to lean on him a little bit. And we didn't see that even coming out of the gate, right? It was about a 60-40 split, and then he got hurt. He's coming back. And since he's come back from the injury, it's been a very odd situation. It's been Dan Campbell and Deuce Staley talking about how if he wants more time, he needs to prove it, and he needs to do this, and he needs to stop whining about it and show it on the field. And it's a very odd situation. To me, he is clearly, when you watch them on the field, he is clearly the better back between him and Jamal Williams. I understand Jamal Williams is kind of the personality of that team and as a moral leader in that team. I get that, but sometimes you got to put the ball in your best player's hands. I feel like there's a little bit of hey, you know what? This season's gone. Maybe we don't want to put DeAndre Swift at risk right now, and we're going to limit his touches. We're going to run Jamal Williams into the ground because he's not going to be with the team next season, and then we'll start fresh with a new quarterback, Jameson Williams, DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I still have a little bit of faith in that organization to be able to utilize him the right way, but I'm starting to waver a little bit, and he's starting to kind of trickle down my rankings a little bit.
Well, with Swift, again, it comes down to trade value. I've met 8, and I'm thinking about dropping him even lower just because I don't think you can get as much for him as some of these other guys. And it's the frustration that people have with Swift. And, who knows if this is going to change. And I do think he's banged up. watching the Giants and Lions game, he was wincing in pain a little bit. But the thing is, he's still playing. He's played 3 or 4 weeks in a row and given you touchdowns in almost every week.
Yep.
But he's playing very limited snaps. And honestly, he's playing the third role. He's not, and like, what's the narrative like about him having a good, rest of the season for redrafters? Like, if the Lions are trailing, okay, well, like, that's happened and it's not done anything for him. Justin Jackson's getting playing time. Craig Reynolds is getting playing time. Jamal Williams is. And the Lions won 3 games in a row. Like, this is a winning formula for them right now. And Jamal Williams is playing good ball. And it's interesting. But, yeah, Swift, like, for me, it's just and he's never done it. Like, we've had him as a top 5, dynasty running back. And he's never been able to finish. And we're getting to the point where, like, it's going on, like, year 3, year 4. Like, at what point do you go, all right, man, like, the gig is up. Like, you got to, like, do something.
I disagree a little bit. I do agree that he hasn't done it for an entire season. But when this dude's on the field and he's healthy, he's lights out. He's lights out, top 5 all the time. Right. So when he's healthy, he's in your lineup and he's giving you 15 to 25, maybe even more points. It's a lock. It's 1, health, right, which we talked a little bit about, and 2, now health and situation. Like, what the hell are the Lions doing? So,
well, I mean, and like I said,
there's a good chance that by end of season he's down in that 10 to 12 range now, and I can't just carte blanche waterfall drop him in my rankings. It's going to take time to drop him for me because I am a believer in DeAndre Swift, but it is rough right now to watch.
Yeah, and I have him at 8, so I'm not acting like I have him at 20, but it's hard for all that stuff because even if he's had a couple, like, 3 or 4 games that were really good, it's like, there's a lot of bad games that are mixed in there that are really, really frustrating. And when you're investing in somebody if he's the 6th running back or 7th running back off the board, 8th by ADP,
yep,
that's a 2nd round startup pick. And that's a lot. So back to the ADP, Taylor, Walker, Barkley, Eckler, top 4. Then you have Hall, McCaffrey, ETN, Swift as your 8. Number 9 for them is Nick Chubb. And for us at number 8 would be Austin Eckler. Comes in 7.5 in our rankings. You have him at
9. I have him
9. I have him at 6. So I'm higher on Eckler than you are. And for me, it's just based on the fact that I know that I could get a 1st round pick for Eckler, and I've got a 1st round pick for Eckler before he went off. You could probably get a 1st round pick plus, even though the age. People are just, he's just scoring a ton of points. And people are, a lot of people, I put my article out about my rankings, and a lot of people wanted to come at me about Eckler. And all those people are the reason that I have the ranking up, not because I believe them, but because those people are ones that are going to pay more than I would for Eckler, because everyone thinks he's a lot of tread left on the tires because of his later breakout and because of the way he plays. People think that he's going to play longer than that, age 28 range. He's 27 right now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's my bid. That's the reason I have him at 9. And it's not like he's super low in my rankings, or he's still top 10. But number 9 for me, because of the age, he only has 1 year left on that deal. He's going into his age 28 season. And if you look at his first 3 games, when they had Mike Williams and they had Keenan Allen for a portion of that, it didn't turn out great for him. He was averaging 14 fantasy points per game versus Mike Williams and Keenan Allen being out, where he's averaging 26 points a game. And that's not because he had a couple 50-point games and some 5-point games. It's because he's got 30 points, 20 points, 25, 35. Like, he is consistently scoring you 25 plus points on a week right now. And I am cashing in on that shit because his touchdowns are off the chains right now. The number of touchdowns that this guy has through the first half of the season is completely unsustainable. It's not happening. So I'm looking to move him because of age, and I don't expect that production to stay as high as it is right now. Now that Keenan Allen is back, and we'll see about Mike Williams and how that situation goes. But I just can't imagine that he's going to just continue to score that volume of touchdowns.
So the next guy on our list is Nick Chubb, I believe, and he is 9.5. I have him at 9. You have him at 10. Brad, how do you have Nick Chubb lower than I do? Come on, man.
It's the contract, man. That's the thing that worries me. We talk about, you want a running back that's got some pass volume upside, and he can get game scripted out. I don't think that's going to be the case if you're looking at future seasons, but maybe the rest of this season, there's a world where he gets game scripted out. He turns 27, and his contract kind of flips. So this year there was a loss of money for the Cleveland Browns if they moved. And I'm not suggesting they even were considering that. But next season they could save a good chunk of change if they decide to move on. I don't think that's going to happen as well. But then he's moving into a season where, what are we going to do with him? Is Deshaun Watson a thing? Are we going to re-sign Nick Chubb? So I just think the long-term outlook for Nick Chubb is not as great as what some of these other guys are that are ahead of him right now.
So just to recap, because we are been in lockstep with ADP.
Yep.
Our consensus, Taylor 1, ADP, Taylor 1. Our consensus, Barkley 2. Then they have 2 for the ADP. We have number 2 on ADP is Walker. He's 3.5 for us. ETN was 3.5 for us, 7 for ADP. So we like ETN more than the consensus. Eckler was 4 for us. He was 7.5. He's lower for us, higher for ADP, but still in our top 8. Breece Hall, he's number 6. McCaffrey's number 6. They were pretty much back to back. ADP has him at 5 and 6. We have him at 6 and 6. ETN was at 7 ADP. We have him at 3.5. Bless you. Then we have DeAndre Swift at 8. For us, DeAndre Swift was 7. Nick Chubb, 9.5. ADP, 9. Here's where it gets a little funny. Dameon Pierce. And so I'm really high on Dameon Pierce for my rankings, and I'm thinking about lowering him partly based on just experience. And I don't want to base one experience to completely change my rankings, but I have a league. I'm 0-11. I'm absolutely just selling everything possible. And I had Dameon Pierce on the team, and I've been holding out for a 2023 first. And I said, hey, I'll take a 24 first plus, but I need a 23 first, or I need a first. And I got Terry McLaurin and a mid second. And I was like, man, I don't want that. Then he was like, all right. Then he came back. He finally came around. I actually countered the offer with, okay, yeah, I'll do it, because I rejected it. But then I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Then he's like, I want Kyren Williams too. I'm like, well, I need a third as well. And so I'm adding. Yeah, so I added a third. I added Kyren Williams, gave him Kyren Williams, and then I got a third back. So I got a second, a third, and Terry McLaurin for Dameon Pierce and Kyren Williams. And nobody, and I didn't tell the guy this, nobody was in my DMs asking for Dameon Pierce. And every single Monday morning, I'm like, hit that square, put him right back on the trade block.
Yep. Just cycle the square. Yeah.
Nobody was interested. And so that tells me that there's, people are, falling in, they're understanding. One, this guy was not an RB1 in college, and an NFL season is much longer than a college season. And being an RB1 on your team and getting the workload that he got, he's breaking down. His efficiency numbers are going, and you run like he ran. Like, I had Angelo Fantasy on here, and I was talking to him, and he said, man, this guy, this guy is an absolute brawler out there. I love his running style, but he reminds me of, like one of those guys that's in and out of the league real quick because he's such a violent runner.
Yep.
And, when you're doing that and you're getting 10 carries a game, it's not as big a deal when you're getting 20 or 30 touches. And there's nothing that says that he's a day 3 running back. Like, James Robinson was one of the best running backs in the league, everybody was like, man, the Jaguars got a steal. Like, they're just going to go crazy on the offensive line, defensive line, because they got a running back for free. First round pick, Travis Etienne. Like, running RB3s get replaced. And so you don't want to be the guy that's sitting there that's rejecting 2 seconds for Dameon Pierce, and then come next spring in Green Bay, the second round, the Houston Texans draft running back, blah, blah, blah. And he's done. And you're cooked. And then you're like, put him on the block again. And someone just like sends you a French fry emoji. It's done. You're done. So I'm probably going to drop him. I'm at 12. You're at 19. So that's kind of the reason you're at 19.
Yeah, I've got him at 19 because of that. And that's why he's my sell. Because I think with me, he's at 19. I think you can get more value than the Dynasty RB 19. And I think no matter what your situation is, I don't even care if you're a contender. I'm probably looking to try to get him off of my team in all situations right now.
So that was Pierce was number 10 for ADP. And I'm just going to go down ADP now, Brad, because it's all the numbers are all funky.
Yep.
Let's just check in with the sponsors before we get out, before we go to that. And I just, again, want to talk to you guys about the Thanksgiving free roll. If you like Super Bowl squares, you're going to love what we have for you and all the D-Gens and your family. Our friends at Play Action Pools have set us up for a football bingo contest for Thursday's slate. It's simple to join and free to play in the SGPN app, and it's exclusive on the app. You can get it at the Play Store. Once you enter, you'll see your unique bingo card on your screen. Whenever a touchdown is scored on Thursday, check your card to see if you have that player. If you do, check the box. If you do get a bingo, you'll win $100 cash and $100 at the SGPN, $100 SGPN gift card. It's gonna be so much fun. I got the whole family playing. I hope you got your cards. If you have any questions, let us know. All right. So the next guy on the list, let's go back to the rankings, is Derrick Henry at 11 for ADP. And both of us apparently hate Derrick Henry. And when I say hate Derrick Henry, I'm really just poking fun at all the people on Twitter that see that I have Christian McCaffrey at 7 and you have him at 5, so I hate him. And I'm like, let me see your list. Oh, he's at 8. Okay. So Derrick Henry is average 19 for us. I have him at 18. You have 20. I have flip-flopped him and Pollard. 20 age. What are the reasons that Derrick Henry is still in the top 24?
Well, because he can produce, and I think he's going to give you at least one more year of production. And I'm okay with him being in my top 24, but I'm not putting him in my top 15, my top 12 when he's going into his age 29 season next year. And we already think there may be some volatility with Ryan Tannehill in that quarterback situation, what's going to be happening. So I can't put him any higher than that. I get there's a world where he's still a top 10 redraft fantasy producer for next year. But after that, what? He's a 30-year-old running back at that point. Is that even a thing? Like that where you can trust him on a weekly basis to be in your top 24? I don't think so. So I think right now we've been set. I feel like we're on repeat because we've been saying it for years. Like, it's probably time to move on from Derrick Henry, and here we are again saying the same damn thing, and he's still out there doing his thing. But at some point in time, the wheels got to fall off of this guy, and I can't have 24-year-old running backs that are producing similar numbers to him below him. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, you want to be out a year early, but rather than a year late. There's people out there that held on to Julio Jones and they held on way too long. Like last offseason, you could have sold Leonard Fournette and James Conner pretty high. I can't get people, like, I got to pay people to take Leonard Fournette off my hands. And so, like, you want rather be a year early than a year late. And Derrick Henry is a lot better running back than Leonard Fournette, and he's built different, and he does take the offseason a lot more seriously. But age is undefeated, and Father Time's going to catch up with Derrick Henry too. And yeah, he's probably going to break the mold and be that 28 or 29-year-old running back. but it's not going to come much longer, and it's going to come quick, and you want to get out before it's too late, because even right now, people aren't paying too much. But I say that, and then I look at the ADP and say, that's freaking wild. Damian
If you
Pierce,
go get Ramondre Stevenson for Derrick Henry straight up right now, would you do it?
Yes.
Exactly, right. And he's 12. He's ADP.
You're taking a little bit of a hit this year, but not much.
Are you? Then, the receiving, if you're in a PPR league, no, I don't think you are.
And that's what I'm saying. Not much, if anything. I mean, I would do it for sure. And you can get Stevenson at 12. So Stevenson's 12. He's your 13. He's my 16. We both like Stevenson more than ADP. You're a little higher. Maybe I'm scouting the helmet a little bit, but I do like Stevenson. I like the fact that he's a 3-down back. I like the fact that Damian Harris is a free agent next year. The only issue I have is it's a crap offense.
Yeah, it's all contract for me. Look, this guy's going to be there. Damian Harris is not going to be there. Even if they bring somebody in, he's going to be the 1A or 1, and this other person that they bring in is going to be some sort of change of pace back. And we've seen they trust him in the receiving game as well. So I just think he's a smash play moving forward, which is why I've got him a little bit higher at 13.
And then number 13 is Harris. And so you're much higher on Najee Harris than I am. And I will say I did my rankings last week. I need to, look back at things. Harris has progressively gotten better. I'm not just going to change it because he looked good on one run last week. He's progressively gotten better. We talked about it on the show every couple weeks. And he still has the name cachet where you can get quite a bit for him. And so I will be moving Harris up from my 17, but I have him at 17. You have him at 8. That's a huge difference. The biggest difference we've had so far.
Yeah.
And he's at 13 with ADP. So right in the middle of us. So sell me on Harris. Why should I go and buy Harris right now?
Well, he came off that Liz Frank injury that he had in the preseason, right? He had that Liz Frank, similar, not as severe, but a similar injury as what Travis Etienne had last year, right? Liz Frank, same issue. You look at what happened. He played the first portion of the season with a steel plate in his cleat to help out with that injury and to make sure he didn't re-injure it. You could tell he just didn't look good. He did not look good. He was doing a little bit. He wasn't running with authority like we were used to. You go back 4 weeks ago when he had the plate removed, October the 14th, the news came out, hey, Najee Harris has been running with a steel plate in his cleat. That is no longer. He is now officially 100% healthy. You know what his yards per carry was before the plate came out? When he was rushing with a cleat or with a metal plate in his cleat, he was running for just over 3 yards a carry. It was 3.03 yards per carry. Look at the last 4 weeks since he's been running with that steel plate out of his cleat. He's at 4.3 yards per carry. He's back. That's actually better efficiency than what we saw last year, right? That's impressive. That is impressive. It looks now he's more comfortable in the offense a little bit. Hey, I've got Kenny Pickett also in these last 4 games who's more willing to chuck the ball down the field, and teams have to now defend George Pickens and that down the field. They have to defend the middle of the field with Pat Freiermuth. That offense is starting to click a little bit. They look a lot better, and I just think Najee Harris is going to return to that bell cow type of back that he's going to see the ball 20 to 25 times, and volume alone with 4 yards a carry. Volume with 3.8 last year was a top 3 back. And now we look at volume with 4 to 4.3. I think that's a good number. And I just think he's going to start to turn the corner. And you might be too late, but if not, go get him. He's one of my buys right now at the running back position because I do think the market is lower than where he should be in Dynasty rankings.
Yeah, and so, again, I go with what can you get for someone as far as trade value. And at the point I did my rankings, you couldn't really get squat for Harris. And you still may not, Harris, you may not be able to sell Harris for much. But on the other hand, you could go buy Harris and get, a little bit of a discount. You look at, DeAndre Swift is a very similar age, and you have DeAndre Swift at 8 in ADP and 13 in the ADP is Harris. that's someone you could look at, as far as a trader. You're looking to get younger from Eckler or McCaffrey. It's a big difference in ADP. So the next one is Javonte Williams. So again, Javonte Williams it's difficult for those that are looking to play now, but Javonte Williams is someone that you can go and try to acquire and trade if you're trying to get, or someone that you can sell right now if you're trying to go get pieces. So if you are a seller and you can go, if you're someone that is out for the season, like you're not going to make the playoffs, you can go acquire Javonte Williams and sell some of these older running backs. And because of the way that his injury has been described, it's even worse. And the J.K. Dobbins stuff is not helping Javonte Williams stock at all. So it is a time where you can buy pretty low on him. It is not a time that you can sell high on Javonte Williams. You have him at 11. I have him at 10. So there's not much of a difference. Anything I missed?
No, definitely not.
Next, we're much higher on Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs is 11 for me, 12 for you. And so when we look at these differences, like Brad and I, we like Josh Jacobs a lot more than the ADP of 15. So we're basically saying like that is a buy because we see him better than the value. And yes, if I could trade Derrick Henry for Josh Jacobs right now, 100% would. And so the next guy on the list is Dalvin Cook. We both have him exactly at 15. ADP has him at 16. So to go back through the ADP, Jonathan Taylor 1, Kenneth Walker 2, Barkley 3, Eckler 4, Breece Hall 5, Christian McCaffrey 6, Travis Etienne 7, DeAndre Swift 8, Nick Chubb 9, Dameon Pierce 10, Derrick Henry 11, Ramondre Stevenson 12. Then you have Najee Harris at 13, Javonte Williams at 14, Josh Jacobs 15, Dalvin Cook at 16. And Dalvin Cook has an opt-out if you look at contracts, but he is under contract for the next few years in Minnesota, so he may appear more safe than he is. If he were to suffer a serious injury, they could opt out and be done with his contract and move on to another running back easily. And Cook has had injuries in the past. Or if he doesn't sustain an injury, he could be on the team for another 2 or 3 years. You have him at 15, so do I. So what are your thoughts on Cook? Is he someone that you could maybe, I don't know, get to buy and sell, but is he someone that you're confident in moving forward?
No, so this is the tier of guys that are producers right now, but have a lot of question marks, right? When you talk about Josh Jacobs, he's an unrestricted free agent. The Raiders did not pick up his 5th-year option. Now, that doesn't mean they don't re-sign him or they can't re-sign him in the offseason, but it means he's going to get to test free agent market, and we'll see how those things go. You look at Dalvin Cook, 28-year-old running back going in to a year where now the team can opt out of his contract, save some money. The next 3 guys that we're going to talk about, very similar in Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, all guys that the teams could cut and save pretty significant money or restructure a contract if they choose to do so. So this is that volatility piece. Contracts matter when you're looking at dynasty rankings, which, if you're looking at this through a redraft lens, you're like, oh my God, why are these guys so low? It's all about the longevity at the position. And all these guys, I don't care where you have them within this tier, to be honest, because they're all pretty much the same when you look at Kamara and Mixon and Cook, Montgomery and Jacobs. They've got different situations a little bit, but there's all a good amount of volatility in every position. So.
Yeah, and you can see that the way we've have them clustered up. We have Harris at 12.5, but then you have Mixon 13.5, Cook and Kamara 15 exactly. So we split those guys, and that's who's next is Mixon. I'm a little higher. I got him at 13, ADP 17. You got him at 14, ADP is 17. So Mixon, again, he's on a good offense. And for me, I get it. Like he's 26 years old. You're only going to probably get 1 or 2 more years. And Mixon's had some inconsistencies. As much as when it's going well, it's going well. But we had time where he missed time with the ankle injury, the migraines, and this and that. Even earlier this season, to start the season, there was some inconsistencies in his performances, and he finally got it going. And then he had a boom week, and then now he's out due to injury. probably out this week with a concussion. But I still like Mixon, and just like Cook and Kamara and stuff like that, he's one of those guys where you're gonna get production now.
Well, this is the interesting thing, right? Mixon and Nick Chubb, for instance, both are the same age. They're 26 going into their age 27 season. Well, we have Nick Chubb up at 9. I have him at 10. You have him at 9. And we have Mixon down at 13 and 14. But Mixon has that receiving upside. Right now, he's on target for the most receptions he's ever had in his career this year. And Nick Chubb doesn't see that. He's lucky to see 2 targets a game. So why do we look at this? This is the battle I talk to myself when looking at Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb together is, does it make sense for me to have Nick Chubb above Joe Mixon, a guy who, had some injury issues, but Nick Chubb's missed games in the past. That's no different. And you have the receiving upside of Mixon versus no receiving upside of Nick Chubb. So do we have these guys wrong right now? Like, should they be swapped in our rankings? Why not?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you told me I could trade Mixon for Nick Chubb plus, I wouldn't need a whole lot of plus to make that deal. And so, and scoring definitely has a play. So Kamara at 18, I got him at 14. You got him at 16. Similar situation. Aaron Jones, interesting because we both have him exactly at 23, but he could be right up in with these guys.
Yep.
And he's number 19, and he's another player that can kind of ghost you for a couple weeks and then get on a streak. And then so the next player is Miles Sanders at 20. You have him at 22. I have him at 24. What are your thoughts? Miles Sanders is a free agent, and so that brings some excitement as well as some question marks. So anything on Aaron Jones and Kamara, Jones, and then Sanders?
No, I think these guys are lumped in with the guys we just talked about in Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs. Again, very similar situations. If you look at guys going into being unrestricted free agents, you got Josh Jacobs, you got David Montgomery, you got Miles Sanders. All 3 guys coming off their rookie deals. 2 of the 3 are looking really good right now, and Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders. So do they end up getting deals and staying in there with their current teams? Whereas David Montgomery and that team looks like it may not be the case for him. And then you look at Aaron Jones. He's getting coupled in because they could move on from him. They actually save the most out of all these running backs. They could save $11 million if they move on from Aaron Jones next year. And he, like I said, he's lumped in for me with the Dalvin Cooks and Joe Mixons of the world, where they're looking at their 3rd contract, could be with their team, could get cut, cap casualties, depending on kind of how the team looks moving forward.
And you see a lot of these where they do a roster construction where you say, oh, they're going to let this guy go and yada, yada. Then they end up coming back on a team-friendly deal and they work something out and sometimes it looks like an extension and it's actually, the guy got a pay cut. They just took his $15 million and spread it out 3 years instead of 2. So, with an opt-out after 2 years. And so, it's not like the NBA where these guys are guaranteed the money and, it helps GMs. It's not good for the players. This one is another big difference for us. ADP has Pollard at 21. You have him at 24. I have him at 18. 21 is exactly in the middle. And so for me, the reason, and I'll talk more about it when I do my sell, you can sell Pollard right now. And right now, people they see sugar plums dancing in their head of Tony Pollard in a different jersey next year. They're seeing him on the Dolphins or the Rams or the Bills or the Chiefs. And they're just imagining all this production for a guy that's probably similar to Eckler, where he didn't really break out till he's 25 years old. Even if he stays with the Cowboys, he should be relevant. But if he gets a starting gig somewhere next year, it could pop off. And just to talk about Spot Track, I did my article on the free agent running backs because we've been talking about that on the show. And Spot Track has the market value, where it calculates the market value for free agents. 2 weeks ago, when I wrote the article, he was $4 million a year. This week, it's $7.5 million a year. He's going to cost money next year. He's earned himself a lot of money the last 2 weeks. And that market value, I think, goes to Dynasty because right now you could get a ton for Tony Pollard, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Bean Productions, Juwan Johnson, Dawson Knox, or Foster Moreau this week. It's good to know if this is a PPR league or not, but I'm going to go Juwan Johnson.
I'm going to go Foster Moreau and the Raiders. Derek Carr's looked a little bit better. They're playing Seattle this week. I think he's a pretty athletic tight end. I think I'd go with Foster Moreau. You still have to worry about the Taysom Hill weirdness and Adam Troutman and some of this other weird shit that's happening in New Orleans. So I'm just staying away from that situation if I can. If their name's not Chris Olave, I don't want anything to do with their pass catchers, to be honest right now. So
yeah, ECR has it as Johnson, but it is pretty close. Johnson is number 9 at San Francisco. Dawson Knox at Detroit got the better matchup. He's at 11. Foster Moreau at 13 at Seattle, which has the best matchup of the group, but he's still at 13 because it's Foster Moreau. And we've seen Foster Moreau out there with good matchups against Arizona and not do anything.
Yep.
So I'm going to stick with Juwan Johnson. I'm going to ride the hot hand. And then Knox is my second. Foster is my third. That's how I have it. Thanks for checking us out. And if any more questions, drop them. The next running back on the list, we go back to the running backs, is Khalil Herbert. So he's 22 in ADP, but we don't have either of our lists. He's actually 25 for me. I just dropped him down. Yeah. So Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert is very interesting. Earlier in the season, you could have traded him for quite a bit. I had a lot of times where I was doing a trade and someone wanted Khalil Herbert and I didn't do it, but I scooped up Herbert in a lot of leagues. Dave Montgomery's a free agent next year. He could easily sign back with the Bears. They have a whole lot of money, but he also could leave. And Herbert looks good in that offense, looks as good or better than Montgomery at times. And the team could go focus on other positions. They obviously have needs at receiver, offensive line, and defense after they just trade away their 2 best defensive players. So running back isn't a high need, but now they got some picks. They got some money. They could, bring Montgomery back. The projection for Montgomery was a very similar deal to like a Joe Mixon or an Aaron Jones, like a 4-year, $40 million deal kind of a deal, which for me, honestly, that's too much. And I'll take Khalil Herbert, who's making like $300K a year, and draft another running back. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears have to pay Chase Claypool. They just gave up a second-round pick for a guy who doesn't have a contract next year.
In 2 years. They got to pay him in 2 years, not next year.
So, I mean, they've got to figure something out. This is another one of those volatility things, which is why I've got Pollard a little bit lower, right? Look, Tony Pollard's older than Josh Jacobs. He's older than Miles Sanders. He's older than David Montgomery. He's almost 26 years old. This is not a spring chicken at the running back position. So he's not going to get like this stud money and come in and get to dominate all the snaps. Just like some things have to happen for Khalil Herbert to come in and just get all of the snaps. So I can't put him any higher. I can't put him in the top 24 until I know for sure that, hey, he's going to be the guy. And when he is, okay, now he'll start to creep up the rankings a little bit. But right now I can't.
So give me 2 players to buy, 2 running backs to buy.
Swift and Harris. I'm buying the dip on both of them. We talked about Najee Harris and the difference before the plate and after the plate. Before the plate, 3.03 yards per carry. After the plate came out of his cleat, he's 4.3 yards per carry. He has looked significantly better in his last 4 games, which is 5 weeks because they had a bye week in there. This is a guy you can still probably get for a late first if you chose to do that. And I think he's a guy that is going to produce. He's still on his rookie deal. Obviously, it's a second year. So you've got 3 more years if they choose to go with his 5th-year option, which would put him in his age 28 season, 27 season. So you can have him through the growth of Kenny Pickett, which I think is looking to be a pretty competent offense in the grand scheme of things. So Najee Harris is buy number 1. The other one's DeAndre Swift. I just have I watch the guy play, and I probably like him more than I should, right? Because the team is not giving him that opportunity since he's come back from the injury. But I do think some of that has to do with where the team is. The team says, oh, you know what? We want to make sure we get one of them really nice picks next year so that we can go and get maybe Bryce Young or somebody, because Jared Goff's not really working out. So I have that in the back of my head. I hope that's the case. But the more the season goes and the more the team makes comments like we talked about Deuce Staley earlier and his comments on DeAndre Swift, the more he's going to start to trickle down my rankings. And it hurts me a lot because he was my Dynasty RB2 coming into the season.
Yeah, I did my rest of season rankings, and I have him at RB30. You just can't trust him the rest of the year until you see something different. Big Swift fan. He was my RB1 in that loaded class. And I'm just, So mine are Khalil Herbert and Rachaad White. And Rachaad White is interesting because you're going to have to pay a little bit more. But I promise you, if he takes this backfield after the bye and puts it in a full Nelson, his price is going to go way higher. So I'll pay the price now that may seem a little high, 2 seconds, maybe a late first, and do what I need to do to get Rachaad White because it's going to go up. It's going to go up. The more people see him play, and God forbid he gets in like a primetime game, it's over. So I've been on the Rachaad White train all off season. He was one of my favorite guys. He was my top drafted running back this offseason. I can't wait to see him take that backfield. My Leonard Fournette shares are not so excited about it, but love Rachaad White and Khalil Herbert. We just talked about him. You can get him pretty cheap right now. And, you can get him pretty cheap. He's a free agent running back next year. And he's not a free agent. Montgomery's a free agent next year. Even if Herbert is there behind Montgomery, he's good to have. And right now he's injured. He's on the IR. And his, the pump went up and the stock is back down. So you can get Herbert for a third. This is going to be a good class next year. But at the end of the day, the third round for Herbert is still worth it. And I'll throw the bonus one in there is Alexander Madison. He's a free agent next year. I don't know where he's going to go, but he's 24 years old, same age as Najee Harris. He's a good running back. So let's talk about sells before we get out of here. Who are two running backs to sell?
Yeah, Dameon Pierce is my guy right now. And you kind of tell when we talked about him, he was my RB19 versus the ADP of 10. I just don't believe the same thing I talked about when I was with Fantasy Fair and we were talking about James Robinson. Sell, sell, sell. History has shown that this is not the standard. When these guys play, they don't turn into Arian Foster. That's not the normal thing. That is the exception, not the rule. So move these guys whenever you can get double their value, right? You got Dameon Pierce late second, early third round of your rookie drafts. If you can move him for a late first right now or a couple seconds, I'm doing that in any situation. I don't even care if I'm contending because, again, this is Dynasty. And if you've got him, he's not your RB2. Hell, he's probably not even your RB3. He's a guy that got you to where you're at, but now he's starting to trail off. Get rid of him before he's not worth anything if they address it in free agency or if they sign or draft a new rookie running back. So that's my first guy. My second guy is going to be Tony Pollard. And it's not because I don't like his outlook. It's because I think his price is as high as it's ever going to be right now. I don't think there's a situation where Tony Pollard becomes the bell cow of any running back room anywhere in his career in the NFL. I think he's going to be that complimentary back the entire time. And the streak that he's on, especially after that huge game last week, it is sell, 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 get everything that you can and some. I went to go try to buy him for a first, and it didn't happen. I was like, okay, well, I know where the market is for Tony Pollard now, and I'm not freaking paying that. But if I got it, I'm selling him for that right now. So I think Tony Pollard is a guy you should definitely be thinking about selling. Again, really probably in any situation, because even if you're a contending team, he's not. He's in your flex, and you probably have a deep enough team to put somebody else in that flex position.
Yeah, and so like if you're a contending team, it's gonna be really hard for you to move on from like an Eckler or a McCaffrey. But if you can move on from those guys and get someone that is younger, that is still producing, it does, that does benefit you. But I do understand that's a very difficult thing to do if if you're a contender, and if you're not, it's very obvious that you should be trading Eckler, McCaffrey, or at least I hope so. Any running back that is 26, 27, 28 years old, like a Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, like if those are the first guys you want to sell if you're going to rebuild. But as far as guys that, you took the two guys that I definitely would have picked, and that is Pierce and Pierce and Pollard. And Pollard is, for the exact same reasons. Someone that I think is a sell is David Montgomery. And so David Montgomery, we don't know what's going to happen next year. If he stays with the Bears, it's him and Khalil Herbert. You're going to see a lot more than you did earlier in the season than you are right now. The reason he's got great value right now is because he's getting all the work. And so you're selling 23rd in ADP, 18 in Brad's rankings, 20th in mine. But you're going to sell him as a top 12 running back rest of the season. And so maybe you're not going to get a top 12 dynasty cost, but you're going to get a lot more than the RB23 and ADP for him if you try to get him right now. I try to sell him right now. And if you could afford to sell him for some of these, other pieces that are maybe injured, like a Javonte Williams, or even if you were to go get a Josh Jacobs or some of these other players, like Montgomery is going to be someone that's good the rest of the season, and people are going to want to acquire him. Trade deadlines are around the corner. Go take advantage. The Bears have a very good strength of schedule. Make sure let them know that, and go from there. And then the other player to sell.
Real quick, I don't know if the market is necessarily there. I bought David Montgomery twice in the last couple weeks for a singular mid-second round pick. And we talked about that a couple weeks ago, right? He was one of my dynasty buys because the cost is kind of low, I feel like, right now for a 24-year-old running back who's going to be getting a second contract somewhere. So you may not be able to get what we want.
Was Khalil Herbert on the IR yet?
I don't remember. I would have to look.
Because that was the nail in the coffin.
Right around the time.
Yeah, that right there was the nail in the coffin where you knew it was going to happen, and then the other one, very similar in regards to that, where you want to try to take advantage of what's going on this year, and so you have you don't know what's going to happen next year with Miles Sanders, and you can sell Miles Sanders now, and he's on a great offense, and you can sell the fact that he's on that great offense, but you don't know what's going to happen next year. And that's a whole lot of concern for someone that has not had the greatest career so far. And so he could go somewhere, and yes, he can do well, but like this is his best season yet. And he's not, he's not lighting the world on fire. So, so Sanders is another one where you might be able to get out from under. Like I said, the other ones I think are a little bit more obvious, the Chubbs and the Henrys and things like that. But these guys that you don't know what's going to happen next year, Sanders and Montgomery, you don't want to keep hold of these guys, and then they end up on committees and things like that.
Can I throw one more guy at you that's a buy for me, and I'm curious what your perception is. So J.K. Dobbins just went back on IR 3 weeks ago. They're talking about him coming back. He's about a week out. We're going to see him again this season. Is this a buy window for a guy that we saw some serious explosiveness out of before he tore that ACL? He's coming back. He needed a scope to get it cleaned up a little bit. They say he's getting better. He's getting healthier, so on and so forth. To me, he's a buy right now in a rebuild type situation. I'm going to go get J.K. Dobbins for a second round pick, most likely in most situations, especially if he's on a contending, hell, even a rebuild team. I just think in general you can get him for a second. Is that a guy that you should be or would think about looking at right now?
Yeah, I definitely would. He's another one of those backs that does not get a lot of action in the the PPR, and so that's a struggle. But I think so. I think he is someone you can, because I looked at him in our rankings, and we have him in the top 24. He's still young, and running backs have come back from these types of injuries before. So it's not crazy that he would come back and have a good rest of the year and have a lot of high touchdown volume in this offense. But he's another one of those players, very much like a Swift, where we've always done a lot of projection. And yeah, he's had a chunk of good, but he's not been like a full season of straight up like Barkley and some of these other guys. And that's the concern, but that's also why it's a buy low. You're not buying J.K. Dobbins to be your RB1. You're buying him to be your RB3, and you're paying a second round pick. And if he ends up being your RB1 one week, that's great.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, a little over an hour. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving. Brad, have a good Thanksgiving with the fam.
Cheers. Happy Thanksgiving, bud.
Good luck this season.